There's just something special about giving old pieces a new life, especially in the fall. So today I'm taking a few thrifted treasures and giving them autumn makeovers that are simple, cozy, and full of charm. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. My name's Melissa. Get ready for a few DIY makeovers that prove you don't need to spend much to get that warm autumn look at home. For this project, I'm going to use this tray, and this is a tray that you can actually get at Dollar Tree, but I happened to thrift this one and I got it for half price. So I only paid $1 for it, which is definitely cheaper than now what you're going to find it at Dollar Tree. But this is what I'm going to use for this project. Now, since this is plastic, there's really nothing for the paint to grab onto. So I want to give it a little bit of something, so I'm going to cover it with a coat of shellac first. Initially, I thought I was going to paint the bottom as well, so I went ahead and sprayed it, but I decided not to in the end. Now that the shellac is dry, I don't want any of the gold showing through. So I'm gonna spray paint the top with this Fusion All-in-Ones in Satin Espresso. And I was getting down to the end of what was in the can, so it took me a little bit more to spray it. So note to self, you need to buy more, but I really like this brown for these base coats. Now that I have it spray painted, I'm gonna paint it with the Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. I did give this 2 coats, and I started by brushing on the first coat, but then I went back with that brush and started dabbing along the paint so that I wouldn't have any brush strokes. Then when I did the second coat, I just did the dabbing motion. To decorate it for fall, I'm going to use these transfers that I got from a Redesign with Prima packet from last year. I think you might be able to get it on Amazon. I'll see if I can find it. But I'm just kind of placing them how I'm going to want them on the tray. And the great thing about transfers is you can stack them. So you just want to make sure that you start with whatever is going to be in your background. You want to start with that one first. So I'm going to kind of lay these to the side in the order in which they need to go. And then I'm going to start with transferring all of these down onto the tray, and I do kind of want them to go up along the sides. So I'm placing this first one where I want it to go. Once I get it where I want it to go, then I just kind of press it with my hand, and I want to start with transferring the pieces that are on the side. Make sure I get those all transferred in, and I'm just using my thumb just to make sure it does get transferred on there. With transfers, they're very simple. You just take the backing off, you lay the piece where you want it, and then each transfer set comes with a stick, and you just use that stick to rub that transfer onto your project piece, and you lift the vellum as you go. And if you see that there's any part that didn't transfer down, you just lay that piece back down, rub it more with the stick, and then just continue rubbing and transferring those pieces on. Once you get all of the transfers down onto your project, then you take that vellum and you just go over the top of all of your transfers, and that just makes sure that it's adhered good to the project and there's no bubbles and there's no pieces that may be inadvertently lifted. Now you do have to seal in your transfers. So to do this, I'm going to use this Waverly varnish in matte, I want to make sure that I protect the paint on the tray as well. So I'm going to use this little sponge dauber to put the varnish on. Like I said, I don't want to risk the brush chipping off any of that paint, because with this plastic tray, it is easy to do. So I just use that little dauber and I sponge on my varnish and I let that dry completely. And then this project is done. I initially thought about doing something else to it, but once I finished it, I just really liked the way it looked. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Should I have done a little more? For this project, I'm gonna make over this sort of plaque. I received this from a sweet subscriber, and so I wanna make it over and give it more of a subdued. This would be great for neutral fall decor. For some reason, fruit baskets, you would think they would be summery, but fruit baskets kind of remind me of fall. So anyway, I'm gonna go over this with probably 2 coats of plaster colored chalk paint, and this is the Waverly chalk paint. Today's video is part of a collaboration called Everything Crafting, and this month is our fall theme, and it is hosted by Lady Red Crafting and Our Gray House every month. And this month there is a guest host, and her channel is Shabby Meets Bling. I'm gonna have all of their channels listed in my description box, as well as a link to the playlist. So make sure when you're finished here that you go check out that playlist and watch everybody's fall videos for tons of fall decor inspiration. All right, I have 2 coats on the top and the bottom, so I have pretty good coverage, but I want to keep it a light color. So to protect the white, I'm gonna cover it with the matte clear enamel before I do anything else. And I will do the top and the bottom. Once the top dries, I'll do the bottom. Once that dried, I am now going in with an antique wax. And what I do with this is I first go over it with the antique wax with a brush. Then I wipe back with I started just doing it with a baby wipe, but then I was gonna use too many baby wipes. So I wipe back most of the antique wax with a shop towel. Then I go in with the baby wipe, and that gets it more to that lighter color. Then I go in with some clear wax. I don't want that antique wax to puddle quite so much, so that's why I go in with the clear wax. I go over it all, wipe it back with the shop towel, then the baby wipe, and that makes it a little bit less puddly and more like a glaze and more like it's aged like I wanted it. So it still gives me the light color of the white, but it also gives me that vintagey shabby chic look. And then this project is finished. Let me know what you think of this. This is exactly how I pictured it in my mind, so I love it, but let me know what you think. I got this little cutting board in a set of like 4 from an estate sale, and I think this may be my last one, but I am going to give it a fall makeover today, and I'm going to first paint it with some Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I'm not giving it you know, super, super full coverage because I do want it to look a little distressed and old and aged and vintagey looking. So I'm just going over the top of it, the sides. Then I'm going to dry it with my little heat gun, my little mini heat gun, and I'll put a link to this in the description box. Once that's dry, I turn it over, do the bottom the same way. Now I do have to give the bottom an additional coat, but I do it with a baby wipe, and I actually did that off camera just to give it a little bit better coverage. Then once that's done, I got these napkins from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to use one of these, and the reason I really liked it was because I like that stripe. I wanted that stripe to go up one side of that cutting board. So I'm going to coat the top part or one side of the little cutting board with that Mod Podge, and I'm going to let the Mod Podge dry completely, which I actually think I used my heat gun to dry it as well. Now these little Dollar Tree napkins are only 2-ply, so I'm just using a little painter's tape to get me started, and I'm going to take off that back ply of the napkin, and then I'm going to cut 1/2 of it off because I'm actually only gonna need 1/4 of it, but I'm gonna cut half of it off. Then I'm gonna set the napkin into place where I want it. And once I get it into place, I'm going to use, the top part of it was not going to go all the way to the top, so I'm going to have to kind of piece it together in just a minute. But I take my parchment paper and I use my little mini heat press, which I will also have listed in my description box. I got it from Amazon, so I'll have that linked. But I just go over the parchment paper, and that reactivates that Mod Podge and gets this napkin decoupaged onto my cutting board, my little mini cutting board. Now I'm going to take that little piece that I cut through, and I'm going to piece it together at the top so that the front of this all has the same finish, and I'm going to use the heat press to do the same thing with the top part of this. Next, I'm going to take some fine grit sandpaper and just sand around the edges, and this is going to give it a nice clean finish all the way around. And then I'm going to go over it with another coat of Mod Podge to seal in that napkin. Felt like this little area needed a little something, and I had this fall y'all transfer from one of my transfer sets from Redesign. I think this was Redesign. It may have been Timeless Designs. I will look and see if I can find it on Amazon, and I'll link that one as well. But I'm just transferring this on just like I transferred the pumpkins earlier in the video. But get this transferred on. You do have to be a little bit more careful with the text just to make sure all of it transfers down. I did go back off camera and seal this transfer in with a light coat of Mod Podge. Now I want it to look a little more vintagey, so I am going to take this Distress ink and I'm going to use it around the edges of the top and the bottom. To finish this off, I'm taking some twine and wrapping it around the handle of the cutting board, tying it in a knot and making a little bow with the twine. And once I get that all done, I do need to put some hot glue on the back just to keep that twine into place. And then I figure it needs one more little thing, and that is a button. And I have this cute little orange button, so I just put some hot glue on top of that bow and stick the button on top. But then the button looked a little too new, so I took that Distress ink and the same one that I used around the board, and then I just kind of touched the button with it just to give it a little bit of age, and I think this was exactly what that button needed. And then this project is done, and I just think that this turned out so cute. I can't wait to hear what you think. Now, if you're new to my channel, or in case you missed one of my previous videos from last year, I'm going to show you a project that I did last fall. I am going to make over this rolling pin. I thrifted it from a thrift store. I had it in my booth for a little while, thinking someone might want to just buy it as a project piece, but it never sold. So I'm just gonna make it over for fall. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to use this napkin that I actually had in my pantry stash, actually, because I bought it on clearance from Hobby Lobby many years ago. And I've just not used them all because I bought a bunch. So I'm gonna use this for the middle part, but then I'm also gonna use this Country Chic paint in the color Secret Garden, and I'm running low on it, but I love this color, and I feel like it goes really well with the green in the napkin. The first thing I'm gonna do is paint the sides of the pin as well as the handles. And I'm gonna give the handles a couple of coats, kind of 1.5 coats, because then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna sand to get some of that original wood back. But once I've got the sides dry, now I'm gonna start on decoupaging this napkin onto the ring, or onto the pin. And I just go in with a layer of Mod Podge in sections. I kind of pull that napkin down lightly, kind of rub it a little bit to get out as many wrinkles as possible. I take out my brayer and use it until I have finished getting all the napkin on. Then I'm gonna trim off the sides. And to do the part by the pin, I use the end of a paintbrush with some water to get it torn nicely. And then I go back over it with a coat of Mod Podge, and I let that dry completely. Now that the Mod Podge has dried, I'm just gonna take my finger sander and I'm gonna, in a downward motion, I'm just gonna sand off the excess on the sides. You can see how easily that comes up. And then once I finish that, I'm trying to not hit the handle, but after I finish this, I am going to sand a little bit of the handles as well, because I do want a little bit of distress on that. And I'll have as much of the things that I use, the materials that I use, I'll have as much of that linked in the description box as possible. Finally, I'm gonna go over this with some antique wax because I do want it to look, you know, dingy and aged. And I do go over the napkin part as well, and then I wipe off the excess. And then here is the final project, and I think it's so pretty. I just love these fall colors. Before we take one last look at all of the projects from today's video, I want to share a Bible verse with you, and this verse comes from Romans chapter 12, verse 12, and it says, "Rejoice in our confident hope, be patient in trouble, and keep on praying." I hope this verse blesses you in some way today. And I do want to make sure that I thank all of the hosts for this collaboration. Don't forget to make sure to check out their channels, and also make sure when you're finished here to go watch that playlist. I know that you're going to love everyone's fall inspiration. I hope you've enjoyed what I've shown you today. Let me know in the comments which one of these projects was your favorite. And also, if you're new to my channel and you love this sort of content, whether it's thrift makeovers, thrift hauls, home decor, then I would love it if you would be a part of my YouTube family. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and click the bell button so you're notified when I upload new videos. And shameless plug, today's my birthday, so I would love it if you would help me get to my goal of 10,000 subscribers on my birthday. That would be amazing. Also, give this video a big thumbs up because it does help me out with YouTube. And if you want to see more videos like this, then go ahead and check out the boxes that you see on the screen right now. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.